Somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-sadakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Datati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruve Shri Utapada Kamadam Shri Guruve Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagarajadam Sagagana Raghunathavidam Tam Jivam Satvaidam Savadudam Parinyana Thagidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagagana Lalita Sri Vishagam Vitam Sa He Krishna Karana Jindo Tina Bando Jagatpade Gobisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranam Hari Priye Vanchakalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhya Yivacha Patitana Pavane Bhayo Vaishnava Bhayo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaurav Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. So today we will cover Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, the first half of the chapter. Before that, you should all have received an email from YouTube, and you have to accept that invitation to be the owner on the YouTube channel that we have created. Some of you have done it, some of you have not. So while I was sending those emails, I did get an error and then I did it again. So you should check your emails and accept, or you can also check the spam folder. Sometimes the bulk emails go there. Or if you have not received the email, then please let me know and I will send the email. Okay, so accept. You just have to accept. You don't have to do anything more. And the other is that I had mentioned that from 8th of March, next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday, at batch 3 and 4, Nectar of Devotion revision is starting. So this is the first time we are doing the Nectar of Devotion revision across all batches. So you are welcome to join or do presentations or listen to the recordings in the worst case scenario. The batch 3 and 4 classes are on Sundays, 7 a.m. Toronto time. It would be 5:30 p.m. India time. So first I will answer inquiry submitted by devotee and bring up striking points, and then we will continue with Canto 4, Chapter 28. So one inquiry submitted. After coming to Krishna consciousness, I am feeling that I have wasted my time by not knowing about Krishna before properly and the importance of knowing about Krishna. But one satisfaction that at least now I am in Krishna consciousness. I don't know if this is correct. So it's a very good inquiry, and there's a direct verse for this that Mother Devahuti says almost identically in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.23.57. Mother Devahuti says the same point, that she also wasted her life instead of taking advantage of Krishna consciousness. And upon realization, Devahuti took up Krishna consciousness seriously and attained Vaikuntha Loka. So you also don't worry about the past. We have discussed this in Bhagavad Gita 8.3, that we had to first exhaust our karmic reactions before we can restart Krishna consciousness from where we left off. But once you realize, once you start, then you do it seriously, like how you all are doing it seriously. So I'll bring up 3:23:57 and we will read this verse, which is almost identical to the inquiry. Shivangi, 3:23:57, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna, my lord, surely I have been solidly cheated by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for in spite of having obtained your association, which gives liberation from material bondage, I did not seek such liberation. Purport. An intelligent man should utilize good opportunities. The first opportunity is the human form of life, and the second opportunity is to take birth in a suitable family where there is cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is rarely obtained. The greatest opportunity is to have the association of a saintly person. Devahuti was conscious that she was born as the daughter of an emperor. She was sufficiently educated and cultured, and at last she got Kardama Muni, a saintly person and a great yogi, as her husband. Still, if she did not get liberation from the entanglement of material energy, then certainly she would be cheated by the insurmountable illusory energy. Actually, the illusory material energy is cheating everyone. People do not know what they are doing when they worship the material energy in the form of goddess Kali or Durga for material boons. They ask, Mother, give me great riches, give me a good wife, give me fame, give me victory. But such devotees of the goddess Maya or Durga do not know that they are being cheated by that goddess. Material achievement is actually no achievement, because as soon as one is illusioned by the material gifts, he becomes more and more entangled, and there is no question of liberation. One should be intelligent enough to know how to utilize material assets for the purpose of spiritual realization. That is called Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Whatever we have, we should use as service to the Supreme Person. It is advised in Bhagavad Gita, Sakarmana tam abhyarcha. One should try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's assets. There are many forms of service to the Supreme Lord, and anyone can render service unto him according to the best of his ability. Hare Krishna.
Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Beautiful. This has been lingering in our minds quite some time, though late never never.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about the past. We just continue our Krishna consciousness now, when we will attain the appropriate destinations. All right, striking points. We have 4 slides. This is slide number 1. Slide 2. Slide 3. And slide 4. So those devotees will be listening to the recordings. So I'll be now sending YouTube links. And if anybody wants the recording in their WhatsApp or other ways, sort of the YouTube links, say sometimes you don't have internet connection and you can always listen on the downloaded version, by all means you can get the actual recording from me also. Either way is possible now to listen, either YouTube or the downloaded version. So let's now discuss Canto 4, Chapter 28. Canto 4, Chapter 28 is titled Puranjana Becomes a Woman in Next Life. It's divided into 5 parts. Part 1 is verses 1 to 27. Puranjana's death. Part 2, verses 28 to 32. Puranjana becomes Vaidarbhi. Part 3, verses 33 to 42. Malaya Dwaja and Vaidarbhi retire. Part 4, verses 43 to 50. Instructions for a disciple from her example. Part 5, 51 to 65. Avijanata means the Lord instructs Vaidarbhi. So verses 1 to 17 describe Kalakanya, means daughter of time or Jara or old age. Then Yavana Raja's soldiers means diseases of Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika and Adi Devika. They attack Puranjana's city, meaning old age, disease attack Puranjana's body. Chandran Prabhu, 1, 2, 3, 4 translations.
Hare Krishna. Translation 1. The great sage Narada continued, My dear King Prasinabharahisa, afterward the king of the Yavanas, whose name is fear itself, as well as Rajara, Kalakanya and his soldiers began to travel all over the world. Text 2. Once the dangerous soldiers attacked the city of Puranjana with a great force, although the city was full of paraphernalia for sense gratification, it was being protected by the old serpent. Text 3. Gradually, Kalakanya, with the help of dangerous soldiers, attacked all the inhabitants of Puranjana's city and thus rendered them useless for all purposes. Text 4. When Kalakanya's daughter of time attacked the body, the dangerous soldiers of the king of the Yavanas entered the city through different gates. They then began to give severe trouble to all the citizens.
So the disease entered through eyes and other openings in the body. So all these verses describe how Puranjana's city, meaning Puranjana's body, is being attacked. So Puranjana is now in pain and has become weak. Uncle will read 5, 6, 7 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 5. When the city was thus endangered by soldiers and Kalakanya, King Puranjana, being overly absorbed in affection for his family, was placed in difficulty by the attack of Yavana Raja and Kalakanya. Text 6. When King Puranjana was embarrassed by Kalakanya, he gradually lost all his beauty, having been too much addicted to sex. He became very poor in intelligence and lost all his opulence. Being bereft of all possessions, he was conquered forcibly by the Gandharvas and the Yavanas. Text 7. King Puranjana then saw that everything in his town was scattered and that his sons, grandsons, servants, and ministers were all gradually opposing him. He also noted that his wife was becoming cold and indifferent. Hare Krishna.
In verse number 7, purport describes Kripana. Kripana means miser. Question for all of you. Anyone remembers where have we discussed this word Kripana before? Everybody? Somebody?
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses. Where in Bhagavad Gita?
I don't remember.
Okay. Somebody? Where have we discussed Kripana in Bhagavad Gita? So we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 that Arjuna had this miserly weakness. The very start of chapter 2 is the Kripana. Uncle will read verse number 7 purport, and that similar point is also explained in 7 purport.
Hare Krishna. Verse 7, text 7, purport. When one becomes an invalid, his senses and organs are weakened. In other words, they are no longer under one's control. The senses and the sense objects then begin to oppose him. When a person is distressed in condition, even his family members, his sons, grandsons, and wife become disrespectful. They no longer are under the command of the master of the house. Just as we wish to use our senses for sense gratification, the senses also require strength from the body in reciprocation. A man keeps a family for enjoyment, and similarly, family members demand enjoyment from the head of the family. When they do not receive sufficient money from him, they grow disinterested and ignore his commands or desires. This is all due to once being Kripana, miser. This word Kripana, used in the 6th verse, is in opposition to the word Brahmana. In the human form of life, one should become Brahmana, which means that one should understand the constitutional positions of the absolute truth, Brahman, and then engage in his service as a Vaishnava. We get this facility in the human form of life. If we do not properly utilize this opportunity, we become a Kripana, miser. A miser is one who gets money but does not spend it properly. This human form of life is especially meant for understanding Brahman, for becoming Brahmana. And if we do not utilize it properly, we remain a Kripana. We can actually see that when one has money but does not spend it, he remains a miser and is never happy. Similarly, when one's intelligence is spoiled due to sense gratification, he remains a miser throughout his life. Hare Krishna.
Kripana means miser, and Kripana is opposite to Brahmana. In human form of life, one should become a Brahmana. Means understand his constitutional position as eternal servant of Krishna and do devotional service. So we get this facility in human life, and if we do not utilize this opportunity, then we are Kripana, miser. What gives the example that somebody has money and does not use it? He's never happy. Similarly, if one's intelligence is spoiled due to sense gratification, he remains a miser throughout his life. Now, because of influence of Kalakanya, means old age, the sense objects, the sense gratification objects, they seem pale. Mother Chandra Aunty, 8 and 9 translations.
Text 8. When King sorry. When when King Puranjana saw that all his family members, relatives, followers, servants, secretaries, and everyone else had turned against him, he certainly became very anxious. But he could not counteract the situation because he was thoroughly overwhelmed by Kalakanya. Text 9. The object of enjoyment became stale by the influence of Kalakanya due to the continuance of his lusty desires. King Puranjana became very poor in everything. Thus, he did not understand the aim of life. He was still very affectionate towards his wife and children, and he worried about maintaining them. Hare Krishna.
Now in verse number 10, describes that living entity does not want to leave his body, but he is forced to leave the body. So this point I had accidentally described earlier when we were discussing chapter 25. So we'll understand that why a living entity does not want to leave his material body, but he is anyway forced to. Chandan Prabhu, 10 translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. 10 translation. The city of King Puranjana was overcome by the Gandharva and Yavana soldiers. And although the king had no desire to leave the city, he was circumstantially forced to do so, for it was smashed by Kalakanya. Purport. The living entity separated from the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead tries to enjoy this material world. He is given a chance to enjoy it in a particular type of body, beginning with the body of Brahma down to that of the microbe. From the Vedic history of creation, we can understand that the first living creature was Lord Brahma, who created the 7 great sages and other Prajapatis to increase the universal population. Thus, every living entity, according to karma, his past desires and activities, gets a particular type of body from the Brahma to that of the microbe or germ in stool. Due to long association with a particular type of material body, and also due to the grace of Kalakanya and her Maya, one becomes very attached to a material body. Although it is the abode of pain, even if one tries to separate a worm from stool, the worm will be unwilling to leave. It will return to the stool. Similarly, a hog generally lives in a very filthy state, eating stool, but if one tries to separate it from its condition and give it to a nice place, the hog will be unwilling. In this way, if we study each and every living entity, we will find that he will defy efforts in a more comfortable position. Although King Puranjana was attacked from all sides, he was unwilling to leave the city. In other words, the living entity, whatever his condition, does not want to give up the body, but he will be forced to give it up, because, after all, this material body cannot exist forever. The living entity wishes to enjoy the material world in different ways, and therefore, by nature's law, he is allowed to transmigrate from one body to another, exactly as a person transmigrates from the body of an infant to a child, to a boy, to a youth, to a man. This process is constantly going on. At the last stage, when the gross body becomes old and invalid, the living entity is reluctant to give it up, despite the fact that it is no longer usable. Although material existence and the material body are not comfortable, why does the living entity not want to leave? As soon as one gets a material body, he has to work very hard to maintain it. He may engage in different fields of activity, but whatever the case, everyone has to work very hard to maintain the material body. Unfortunately, society has no information of the soul's transmigration, because the living entity does not hope to enter the spiritual kingdom of eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. He wants to stick to his present body, even though it may be useless. Consequently, the greatest welfare activity in this material world is the furthering of the Krishna consciousness movement. This movement is giving human society information about the kingdom of God. There is God, there is Krishna, and everyone can return to God and live eternally in bliss and knowledge. A Krishna conscious person is not afraid of giving up the body, because his position is always eternal. A Krishna conscious person engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord eternally. Therefore, as long as he lives within the body, he is happy to engage in the loving service of the Lord. And when he gives up the body, he is also permanently situated in the service of the Lord. The saintly devotees are always free and liberated, whereas the karmis, who have no knowledge of spiritual life or the transcendental loving service of the Lord, are very much afraid of giving up the rotten material body. Hare Krishna.
So beginning from Brahmaji down to a tiniest microbe, everyone gets a body according to his karma, according to his past desires and activities, to enjoy or suffer. And due to long association with material body, and because of Maya, one becomes overly attached to material body, although material body is abode of pain. And even if you try to separate a worm from a stool, the worm will be unwilling to leave. Or a hog. We have discussed the example of hog, that Indra became a hog eating stool, and he would not go back to being the king of heaven. So in this way, every living entity will defy for a more comfortable position from their current body, even if the current body is painful. So, although Puranjana was attacked from all sides, he was unwilling to leave the body, to leave the city. And it applies to all living entities. They do not want to give up the body, but the living entity will be forced to give up, because material body is, after all, temporary. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, small clarification I seek.
Mhm.
As human being, we have opportunity to get back to Godhead. Supreme Godhead. Whereas, in this case of worm as well as hog, they are getting back to the stool and they don't want to leave. How will they then reach the Supreme Godhead? Is it due to repeated birth and death based on the karma, or the remaining balance of the karma? They will continue and then get back to the human body. What is your view, Prabhuji?
So Bhagavatam describes that every single living entity is in the cycle of evolution. So in animal form of life, which essentially is the rest of the 8.4 million life forms except humans. In animal form of life, the jiva, the living entity, does not create new karma. They only exhaust their karma. So how the evolution cycle works is that one living entity is in a particular life form. He exhausts his karma in that particular life form, then goes to the next life form, exhaust the karma there, then go to the third next life form. He keeps exhausting karma until he reaches the human form of life where religiosity is possible. So we all should have also lived all the 8.4 million life forms till we reached human, unless somebody gets special mercy from a pure devotee or Krishna himself, that they skip the in-between life forms and jump directly to human. So that is also possible. But everybody is on the evolution cycle. Therefore, the creation cycle is 311 trillion, 40 billion, few million years, Earth years. And this is not the only cycle. The creation and annihilation has happened before and will probably happen again if all jivas are not purified. Uncle?
The answer is perfect.
You mute one of your and then speak. Yeah, now go ahead.
The answer is perfect, and I now got clarity.
No, Prabhuji, but even after becoming a human form, see, we come to know about Krishna. Then what about people who are not, believe in Lord? What about them, Prabhuji?
Yeah. So therefore, we go out on preaching to give the humans a chance to know about Krishna. And therefore, even for animals or insects, we chant loudly or give them prasad so that the animals also get a chance for Krishna consciousness. So not everybody hears about Krishna because they are not ready. So just as if you look at, if you want to pluck a mango from a tree and the mango is not yet ripe, and if you try to pluck that mango, you will not pluck the mango, rather you will pull the whole branch down. So the best approach when the mango is not ripe is to leave the mango on the tree so that the mango gets cooked in the sun to get ripe. Meaning, if somebody is not ready for Krishna consciousness in the material world, let them get whipped by Maya Devi, and they will come to their senses. Well, of course, we can and we should try to give them prasad, try to give them books. We should try our part to give them mercy. But if somebody is not ready, they are in the evolution cycle. Even in the human form, they are still in the evolution cycle. And at some point of time, they will come to Krishna consciousness, hopefully. Does that answer?
Yes, sir. That means even up even up to death, if they are not ready, after death again they'll born as human.
So there are many factors that determine whether they get human form of life again or not. Even if they are materialistic, they may get human form of life on earthly planets. But there are so many factors that determine the next life. It's not a black and white answer. And Krishna says only Krishna knows.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Rest of you, questions, comments, realizations? All right. Shivangi, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 translations are straightforward.
Hare Krishna. Text 11. Under the circumstances, the elder brother Yavana Raja, known as Prajvara, set fire to the city to please his younger brother, whose other name is Fear itself. When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, sons, grandsons, wives, and other relatives, were within the fire. King Puranjana thus became very unhappy. The city's superintendent of police, the serpent, saw that the citizens were being attacked by Kalakanya, and he became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by the Yavanas. Text 14. As a serpent living within the cavity of a tree wishes to leave when there is a forest fire, so the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat. Hare Krishna.
15 also.
The limbs of the serpent's body were slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in his attempt, he began to cry loudly.
So straightforward verses on the attack on the body. Now verse 17 describes what roles do these subtle and gross bodies play in material enjoyment. So this point also I had accidentally explained earlier while we were discussing chapter 25. So at the time of death, thoughts of material enjoyment do not go away. This indicates that the living entity, the soul, is carried by the subtle body, meaning mind, intelligence, and ego. Uncle will read 16, 17 translation and then 17 purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 16. King Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, servants, and other associates, as well as his house, his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth. Text 17. King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mine, because he was overly attracted to his wife. He was already quite poverty-stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry. Text 18. King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by thoughts of family maintenance. Purport for 17. It is clear in this verse that at the time of death, thoughts of material enjoyment do not go away. This indicates that the living entity, the soul, is carried by the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. Due to false ego, the living entity still wants to enjoy the material world, and for want of material enjoyment, he becomes sorry or sad. He still makes the intellectual plans to further his existence, and therefore, although he gives up the gross body, he is carried by the subtle body to another gross body. The transmigration of the subtle body is never visible to material eyes. Therefore, when one gives up the gross body, we think that he is finished. Plans for material enjoyments are made by the subtle body, and the gross body is the instrument for enjoying these plans. Thus, the gross body can never be compared to the wife, for the wife is the agent for all kinds of sense gratification. Because of long association with the gross body, the living entity becomes very sad to be separated from it. The mental activity of the living entity obliges him to accept another gross body and continue his material existence. The Sanskrit word Stri means expansion. Though the wife one expands his various objects of attraction, sons, daughters, grandsons, and so on. Attachment to the family members becomes very prominent at the time of death. One often sees that just before leaving his body, a man may call for his beloved son to give him charge of his wife and other paraphernalia. He may say, "My dear boy, I am being forced to leave. Please take charge of the family affairs." He speaks in this way, not even knowing his destination. Hare Krishna.
So at the time of death, the thoughts of material enjoyment, they do not go away. So he may not have material body, or even while leaving his material body is so weakened, he still makes intellectual plans to further his existence. And therefore, he is carried by his subtle body to another gross body. Now, this transmigration of subtle body is not visible to our material eyes. And therefore, many think that once one dies, everything is finished, but that's not correct. Plans for material enjoyment continue in the subtle body and this way continue in the next gross body. So because of long association with gross body, the entity becomes very sad to be separated from the body. And still the mental activity means the intellectual plans for enjoyment obliges him to accept another gross body and continue his material existence. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, from chapter 25 to 28 up to now, what I realized, it is the real value for life, particularly do not lose yourself to the city of the body. Remember, you are eternal companion. That is what I realized.
Yeah, very good.
And eternal nature ultimately lead to liberation. Yeah. We are only temporary. The body itself, the concept I realize is very temporary.
Yeah.
We transmigrate. That's it.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. So, although it's an allegory story, it has a lot of a lot of instructions that we get realizations to transform. So very good. You have correct and very good realizations.
I particularly feel when you started chapter 25 allegory, I did not hear this word allegory before. So I refer dictionary. That is something not real, but it is a message conveyor. So and it has conveyed message tremendously well up to
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
I feel this chapter itself, chapter 4, is fantastic.
Yeah, you are correct. And yeah, the language in Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and scriptures, the language is pretty high. You are correct. Allegory is not a word we hear so often, and I also had to look it up. What exactly is allegory? And you describe it correctly that it's telling a story to actually pass on a hidden message. So we have a lot of messages from these chapters.
The hidden agenda Srila Prabhupada with the allegorical narrative without offending the listener or reader,
Yeah.
make them to realize vis-a-vis to the allegorical character vis-a-vis self. It makes you self-realization.
Yeah, you are correct. And so we had read at the start of chapter 25. So the last verse in this unit. So chapter 28, verse number 65, Prabhupada explains that why allegory? And the reason why allegory is that some understand to follow Krishna consciousness through the hearing process, but others who are not interested directly, for them such allegorical stories are made to pass on the real message.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right, verses 18 to 22 are straightforward on Puranjana's lamentation about his wife and children. Mother Chandra Aunty, 18 to 22 translations.
Text 18. King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by thoughts of family maintenance. Text 90. King Puranjana then began to think of his past dealings with his wife. He recalled that his wife would not take her dinner until he had finished his, that she would not take her bath until she had finished his, and that she was always very much attached to him, so much so that if he would sometimes become angry and chastised her, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior. Text 20. King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs. Text 21. King Puranjana continued worrying, after I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters, who are not fully dependent on me, who are now fully dependent on me, live and continue their lives? Their position will be similarly to that of passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of the ocean. Text 22. Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nevertheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raja, whose name was Fear itself, immediately drew near to around him.
Just to
Arrest him, sorry.
Right, straightforward verses about lamentation about his family members, like a Graha Medi. Not like a Graha Medi, he's a Graha Medi. And up to from 23 to 27 are on Puranjana's death, although 22 also is overlapping. Mother Chandranti will continue, 22 to 27.
Text 22. Although King Puranjana should not have lamented over the fate of the wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavana Raja, whose name was Fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him. Text 23. When the Yavanas were taking King Puranjana away to their palace, building him like an animal, the king's followers became greatly aggrieved. While they lamented, they were forced to go along with him. Text 24. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yavana Raja and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Text 25. When King Puranjana was being dragged with great force by the powerful Yavana, out of his gross ignorance, he still could not remember his friends and well-wisher, the super soul. Text 26. That most unkind king, Puranjana, had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was as though he were being cut to pieces by axes. 627. Due to his contaminated association with women, a living entity like King Puranjana eternally suffers all the pangs of material existence and remains in the dark region of material life, bereft of all remembrance for many, many years.
So straightforward verses about his attachment and death. Now part 2 is verses 28 to 32. Title is Puranjana becomes Vaidarbhi. So we have discussed this principle in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 verses 5 and 6. That if you remember Krishna at the time of death, you will attain Krishna. Otherwise, whatever else you will remember, that's what you will attain. Meaning, if a man remembers a female at the time of death, whatever be the relation, mother, wife, fantasy, daughter, he will get a female body in next life. Or if a female remembers male at the time of death, whatever be the relation, father, husband, fantasy, son, she will get a male body in next life. If one remembers cat or dog, he will become a cat or dog. Now understand that there are other factors also which play a role to decide which body form one gets in the next life. Uncle will read 28 purport, 28 translation.
Hare Krishna. 28 translation. King Puranjana gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently in his next life he became a very beautiful woman and well-situated woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king. Hare Krishna.
So the purport explains that why Puranjana became Vaidarbhi in the next life. I mean, why Puranjana as a male got a female body. 28 purport explains this. You anyway have this as your spiritual endeavor, and I anyway briefly describe, so I will skip reading the 28 purport. Now, next point is Malaya Dwaja. He is a devotee. So this also is just as Kalakanya is referred to as something else, meaning Jara and old age. Similarly, Malaya Dwaja is representing a devotee. So learning from the life of Puranjana as Vaidarbhi is that bhakti arises from association of devotees, by mercy of devotees. So we'll read verses 29 and 30 purports one at a time. And these purports discuss what is the significance of Malaya Dwaja and his children. Chandran Prabhu, 29 translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 29. It was fixed that Vaidarbhi, daughter of King Vidarbha, was to be married to a very powerful man, Malaya Dwaja, an inhabitant of the Pandu country. After conquering other princes, he married the daughter of King Vidarbha. Purport. It is customary among Kshatriyas for a princess to be offered under certain conditions. For instance, Draupadi was offered in marriage to one who could pierce a fish with an arrow simply by seeing the reflection of that fish. Krishna married one of his queens after conquering 7 strong bulls. The Vedic system is for a daughter of a king to be offered under certain conditions. Vidarbhi, the daughter of Vidarbha, was offered to a great devotee and powerful king. Since King Malaya Dwaja was both a powerful king and greater devotee, he fulfilled all the requirements. The name Malaya Dwaja signifies a great devotee who stands as firm as Malaya Hill, and through his propaganda makes other devotees similarly as firm. Such a Mahabhagavata can prevail over the opinions of all others. A strong devotee makes propaganda against all other spiritual conceptions, namely jnana, karma, and yoga. With his devotional flag unfurled, he always stands fast to conquer other conceptions of transcendental realization. Whenever there is an argument between a devotee and a non-devotee, the pure, strong devotee comes out victorious. The word Pandya comes from the word Panda, meaning knowledge. Unless one is highly learned, he cannot conquer non-devotional conceptions. The word Para means transcendental and Pura means city. The Parapura is Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, and the word Jaya refers to one who can conquer? This means that a pure devotee who is strong in devotional service and who has conquered all non-devotional conceptions can also conquer the kingdom of God. In other words, one can conquer the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, only by rendering devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Ajita, meaning that no one can conquer him but a devotee. By strong devotional service and sincere attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can easily conquer him. Lord Krishna is fear personified for everyone, but he voluntarily agreed to fear the stick of Mother Yasoda. Krishna God cannot be conquered by anyone but his devotee. Such a devotee kindly married the daughter of King Vidarbha. Hare Krishna.
Right, so Malayadwaja is a devotee. So this discussion continues in verse 30. Shivangi, 30, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna, text 30. King Malayadwaja fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became rulers of that tract of land known as Dravida. Thus, there were 7 kings in that land. Purport. King Malayadwaja was a great devotee, and after he married the daughter of King Vidarbha, he gave her one nice daughter whose eyes were black. Figuratively, this means that the daughter of King Malayadwaja was also bestowed with devotional service, for her eyes were always fixed on Krishna. A devotee has no vision in his life other than Krishna. The 7 sons are the 7 processes of devotional service: hearing, chanting, remembering, offering worship, offering prayers, rendering transcendental loving service, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Of the 9 types of devotional service, only 7 were immediately given. The balance, friendship and surrendering everything, were to be developed later. In other words, devotional service is divided into 2 categories, namely Vidhi Marga and Raga Marga. The process of becoming friends with the Lord and sacrificing everything for him belongs to the category of Raga Marga, the stage of developed devotional service. For the neophyte, the important processes are those of hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtanam and remembering Krishna, worshipping the deity in the temple, offering prayers, always engaging in the service of the Lord, and worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. The word Yaviyasya indicates that these processes are very powerful. After a devotee engages in the processes of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, and is able to secure these processes, he can later become a devotee capable of rendering spontaneous devotional service, namely Sakyam and Atmanivedanam. Generally, the great acharyas who preach devotional service all over the world belong to the category of Sakyam Atmanivedanam. A neophyte devotee cannot actually become a preacher. The neophyte is advised to execute devotional service in the 7 other fields, Shravanam, Kirtanam, etc. If one can successfully execute the preliminary 7 items, he can in the future be situated on the platform of Sakyam Atmanivedanam. The specific mention of Dravida Desha refers to the 5 Dravida Deshas in South India. All were very strong in rendering the preliminary devotional processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam. Some great acharyas like Ramanujacharya and Madhavacharya also came from Dravida Desha and became great preachers. They were all situated on the platform of Sakyam Atmanivedanam. Hare Krishna.
So the significance of Maladwaja and his children is that Maladwaja is a devotee and is a Mahabhagavat. Only a Mahabhagavat can prevail over the opinions of others. Opinions about Jnana, Karma, Yoga, etc. Only a Mahabhagavat will prevail. With his advanced devotional status, the devotee always stands fast and conquers other conceptions of transcendental realizations. Whenever there is an argument between a devotee and a non-devotee, the pure and strong devotee comes out victorious. So, the daughter of King Malayadwaja is also bestowed with devotional service, for her eyes were always fixed on Krishna. A devotee has no vision in his life other than Krishna. So for a neophyte, it's very difficult to convince anyone. And if actually a neophyte tries to convince others, and because the neophyte himself is not strong, instead of convincing others, the neophyte might get jolted on his own path. And he will say, what am I doing? So therefore, we have to do preaching according to our level. For a neophyte, follow the hearing and chanting process and remembering Krishna. Yeah, you can for a preaching endeavor, you can do back-end services, like say packing books or taking books from point A to point B, and let the advanced devotees do the preaching endeavor. Questions, comments, realizations? All right, spiritual endeavor questions. Question number 1. How does Srila Prabhupada define Kripana? Comes from verse number 7. Number 2. Explain why the living entity does not want to leave his material body. Comes from verse number 10. Number 3. What roles do the subtle and gross bodies play in material enjoyment? Comes from verse number 17. Number 4. What is the significance of Malaya Dwaja and his children? Comes from verses 29 and 30. And for next class, read Canto 4, rest of chapter 28 if you have not already read.
Prabhuji, can you
Yeah.
repeat question number 3?
Yeah. Question number 3. What roles do the subtle and gross bodies play in material enjoyment? Comes from verse number 17.
Thank you.
So next Saturday, March 7th, we will finish this chapter 28 and this unit number 19. So following Saturday on March 14th, you all will do the unit 19 presentation. So I have on the screen, you can please select your presentation slots. Now do understand that because this unit is smaller, so there are only possibility for 5 presenters. Similarly, the next unit, there are only 3 chapters, so potentially will be less presenters for that also. So some of you can choose from here, some from next. You don't have to wait for next. You should always choose the first opportunity. So let me know your presentation slot and I will populate on this Google document. And as I said at the start of our discussion, that from 8th of March, Sunday, at batch 3 and 4, Nectar of Devotion revision is starting. You all are welcome to join. You all are welcome to do the Nectar of Devotion presentation, or worst case scenario, at least try to listen to the recording. And for YouTube, you should all have received an email to accept the invitation. So please do your part of accepting the invitation. And if you have not received the email from YouTube, check your spam or connect with me. I can send the email again. Now, from this point on, I will be sending a YouTube link. So there's an advantage on YouTube that once you click the YouTube video, and if you click more, you have the option to fast forward the recording, meaning the pace of the recording is faster or slower, as well as it also gives you transcript of what we are discussing. The transcript is not as good as what Zoom has. So Zoom transcript has the name also besides it, meaning who is saying what. The YouTube transcript is just the transcript without the names. Still, it's you can have the transcript in front of you if it helps. So please do your part as well. Any last questions, comments, realizations? Hare Krishna, everybody.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.